Hello everyone. So here on the EMC table, we've been discussing how IT adds value in the modern organisation. Now, because we're all here today to talk about cloud, we've read the modern organisation as a cloud-enabled organisation. And therefore, we came out with quite a large number of different areas to talk about. And I'm not going to go into all of these in a huge amount of detail. I'll skim through these, the ones on the top sheet, and on the second sheet, we'll just pull out the main themes that came out of the discussion. So the first one up here is about innovation, and this sort of ties in with Google's presentation this morning. It's not enough to just deliver the normal things that we'd expect from IT, such as an increase in revenue, decrease in costs, that kind of thing. You need to really go back to the business and say, here's something new you couldn't do before, thanks to the IT enablement, thanks to the cloud approach that we're taking, and actually push that back into the business. And a good way to do that is to have some kind of board level representation. So you need to have that senior voice, and they need to be realizing that IT is actually delivering value, and therefore they shouldn't be completely outsourcing. There is a value to retaining IT going forward and investing in it. Also want some way to give the users an easier approach to consuming IT, and typically in the cloud environment that's self-service, and along with self-service needs to be some kind of idea of either show through of what the costs are that they're incurring or actual chargeback to make them accountable for the services they use and consume. How do you do that? Well, that will be through a service catalogue, and the service catalogue needs to be business facing, not just something which says here's the cost of 10 web servers. It needs to be something aimed at what the business are actually going to consume. And this brings us into the whole idea of competition that one of the other teams talked about. What we don't want is what I call the PC World effect, where someone comes to you and says, well, I could go down to PC World and buy a hard disk with 1 terabyte of storage on it for 50 quid, so why are you taking 6 weeks to set it up and charging me £1,000? You know, so you need to position the internal IT service as something which can effectively compete with the outside world and make sure that your users are not going to find some ways to try and bypass that. Other points we've got up here around accelerating new products to market, and the key one down here is actually measuring the benefit. It's no good to go back to the board and say, I need an investment of X million pounds to go to this cloud model, and then 6 months later not go back and say, well, here's the savings we made, or here are the actual benefits. You need to put in place, as part of all of these projects, some way to measure the actual benefits that have been achieved. So that was the quick whistle-stop tour through. I'll just pull up some of the main themes that got into the real heated discussion, if you like. The first one was around real collaboration. And this is coming back to the point that users will try and bypass the security controls or mechanisms that are not effective working for them. So that's a key priority, really, that our table felt, having that real user collaboration. The next point was around getting away from this whole idea that IT should be thinking about 5 or 6 nines availability. No one in the business really cares about how long it took to answer a call to the service desk or what level of availability you got. One of the key phrases that came up from the BBC side was this idea of frictionless computing. So the concept where the business actually understands what IT are trying to deliver, and it's very simple to consume it and understand what they got back. So how do you measure that? So a real-world example might be a queue of people standing at a check-in desk at an airport where all of a sudden the printer breaks. Now, if that printer breaks, the IT department could go back and say, oh, yes, but it's been up 99.999% of the other time. It doesn't help you if you've got a huge long queue of people and they're all about to miss the plane. So we need some kind of metric that is relevant to the business to say, this is how successful this was. We had another example with in the hotel industry where, for example, the number of room uptakes was increased. And we talked about another case where you're doing online sales or contact center type sales, where instead of saying these are the number of transactions that were processed, we can actually say we enabled you to make an additional 5% of outbound calls, and that resulted in an increased sales conversion rate of 25%. Because sales conversion rates are the things that the business cares about. Faster, cheaper service. A key comment around removing end-user device dependencies. That again fits with this morning's message. More efficient use of solution providers. So what do you do to actively manage your solution providers and get value from them? And then some key metrics around non-functional requirements like elastic computing. No customer is going to come to the IT department and say, hey, I want elastic computing, or I want multi-tenant, or I want security in the hypervisor. You know, they're never going to come and ask for those things. It's IT's responsibility to go back to the business and say, we've got these capabilities and these are actually benefits for you in the following way. Understand the economic business case. So the IT department should have a good understanding of the costs and the opportunities to save money and increase revenue before the business comes along. So when the business comes and says, I want this kind of service, you should be able to already say, right, I understand my operating model, I know it's different for cloud computing, and therefore here is the business case you should be adopting. There shouldn't be any barriers in that particular case. And then, last of all, we had the drag of old technology. So how do you support old technology, but keep in view the fact that we've got all of these 20-somethings coming to work in the case of Sony, in the new media world, who already have big expectations around how they use Facebook, how they interact with multimedia, what's fashionable, whether they're using their iPad or iPhone or whatever. How do we keep in view their expectations but also support the new technology? So those are the main themes that we came up with.